Hello, my name is reimagined, and welcome to the May 2023 Power BI Update. We've got a lot of exciting features for you this month. If you want more information on those features, and in fact, a full list of those features, I highly recommend you check out our blog. You can find a link to the blog in the description of this video. Well, let's get started. We have a few very special announcements. With the release of Fabric, we are pleased to announce that the Power BI Data Hub has been reimagined and rebranded as the OneLake Data Hub. The OneLake Data Hub is expanding to support all Fabric data items. It also addresses your requests to be able to quickly and easily locate the right data items across multiple workspaces. You can use the intuitive and efficient Explorer to browse through and locate data items, making it easier for you to work with large volumes of data and derive valuable insights. In the Explorer pane, you'll see all the workspaces in which you have access to data, and clicking on a workspace name scopes the data to that workspace only. The OneLake Data Hub is accessible on the Power BI service, Power BI desktop, and in all Fabric workloads. Also accompanying the release of Fabric, the lineage view features expanding to support all Fabric items. You'll now see how data flows from source to destination across all items. For example, how a pipeline injects data into a lakehouse, and then into its related warehouses, datasets, and reports. Improvements to the impact analysis experience mean that you will see all downstream items through the chain, in addition to the direct child items, making it easier to work with complex BI projects and ensure the data is flowing smoothly across all items. With the announcement of Microsoft Fabric, we are renaming the Power BI free user license. This license is now the Microsoft Fabric free user license. All functionality that the Power BI free user license previously offered remains the same. Following the announcement of Microsoft Fabric, we have a new Get Data category that will contain data sources from Microsoft Fabric. Data flows, Power BI data sets, and data marts will now appear in the Fabric category, in addition to the Power Platform category. We're also releasing 3 new Fabric connectors. The first is Lakehouse in Microsoft Fabric. This connector will allow you to connect to Delta tables created in the Fabric Lakehouse. It also gives you the ability to directly discover and connect to all of the files in OneLake to easily visualize Lakehouse data. Next is Warehouse in Microsoft Fabric. With this connector, you can connect to warehouse data in Microsoft Fabric and use the SQL endpoint to get data and write native queries. The third Fabric connector is KQL Database in Microsoft Fabric. You can connect to KQL Database's data in Microsoft Fabric and use Query URI to connect to your KQL database. For reporting, we're pleased to announce that Azure Maps are now generally available. Several customizable options have been released since private preview last year, and this release is no exception. First, when you open a report with an existing map visual and Azure Maps is enabled for your organization, you'll see a new window pop up encouraging you to upgrade your map to an Azure map. Second, we're updating the style of all of our map tiles, including the Azure Maps visual. We are rolling out this change out to users over time, so keep an eye out for the new style in your own reports. I'm going to pass it over to Rian for a demo.
When you open up Power BI Desktop this month, you might see a surprising new pop-up encouraging you to convert your Maps visuals to the new Azure Map. And that's because, as we are excited to announce, the Azure Maps visual is now generally available. Since starting public preview, we've been working to improve the visual with a ton of new capabilities, like geocoding, choropleth and other layers, label controls, and a whole lot of backend changes. We know that mapping has been a big pain point for a lot of you. We've got the map, we've got the filled map, the shape map, and more. And they all do different things, and rarely do they do enough. And that's why our goal for Azure Maps has always been to give you a first-party map visual which unifies all of our current map visuals together by doing everything they can and more, so that you get one singular, powerful, first-party map visual. And with this general availability, Azure Maps takes one big leap towards that dream, with feature parity with our map and filled map visuals. As a quick note, if you don't see the Azure Maps visual icon in the visual gallery, you'll have to enable it in the options menu under security in the security tab, or it might be disabled by your organization, in which case you should contact your tenant admin. We'll also be updating the style of all of our map tiles, including in our Azure Maps visual, to use the same base map style. So you can see that there are some minor differences between Bing and Azure Map tiles here. Those will be going away with this change. But since this change will affect all reports, including existing reports, we're rolling this out over time. So, keep an eye out for it in your own reports. Send us feedback as early as possible if you encounter any issues. But soon, even these minor differences between the Bing map on the left and the Azure map on the right will be smoothed out, and they will all be completely identical. So when you convert Bing map to Azure map, which now you can do today, it will look exactly the same as before. Then, general availability, what happens next, right? This is just the first step. We're working on even more improvements to availability and functionality, like fully deprecating our old maps and replacing them automatically with Azure Maps, like helping our visual also replace the shape map, and more. So, thanks for sticking with us this whole time. Keep an eye out for all the new and awesome features on the way, and keep letting us know what you need out of your map visuals. Thank you all so much.
Thanks, Rian. Up next is measure-driven data labels. You can now easily swap out your default data labels with more meaningful values based on your chosen field or measure. Next, we're excited to announce the preview of new open, save, and share options when working with files in OneDrive and SharePoint document libraries. These new capabilities help with file versioning, collaborating, and ensuring a backup of your files is always in the cloud. Up next is Matrix accessibility improvements. We have several enhancements that improve usability and accessibility for all users. A few of these are improved keyboard navigation and new keyboard shortcuts, two-toned focus outline that will always be visible even in darker backgrounds, meeting color contrast requirements, and new support for screen reader announcements to convey matrix structure and interactions. These are available for both new and existing reports. Next, we have updates to the on-object interaction feature released in preview in March. These updates include support for pie, donut, and table visuals, and a new aggregations menu that makes it easier to switch aggregations in the new on-object design. Roseanne will demo these updates for us.
We're excited to show you the new additions to OnObject this month. In the May release, we've added formatting support for table, pie, and donut visuals. Here, I have a table that I can enter format mode and quickly change the style of my column headers. I can also add conditional formatting to this order quantity column. And I can change my total label simply by double-clicking and using direct text edit. We've also added support for pie and donut visuals. Here I can change the color of a slice super easily from the mini toolbar and update the labels to show just percents instead. Based on feedback from the community, we've also updated the ribbon gallery to be dual purpose. Now, while I have a visual selected, I can use the gallery to change my visual type to a donut. Lastly, also from the feedback we've heard that aggregations are hard to find just on the right-click menu, we've added a new drop-down in the data flyout to allow you to quickly swap aggregations.
Thanks, Roseanne. Up next is a new feature that gives authors the ability to define query limits in Desktop. There are different limits to the time a query is allowed to run and the amount of memory a query is allowed to use between Power BI Desktop and the Power BI service. This occasionally causes confusion when a visual that works on desktop unexpectedly errors when it's viewed in the service. You can now use this feature to match the limits that will be found wherever your data is hosted in the service. I'm going to pass it over to Rian for a demo.
One issue we've been hearing from you is that sometimes visuals are working on Power BI Desktop, but they seem to error out when you publish and share them. And this is because in the service, we apply limits on how large your queries can be and how long they can take to ensure things can't go too wrong when you're using shared resources. But the thing is, depending on where your data model is hosted, we apply different limits. And of course, in desktop then, we don't apply any limits at all. So sometimes you'll publish a report with visuals which ran to completion on desktop, but which hit a timeout or a memory limit on the service. And then you'll be wondering, why is this erroring in one place, but not in the other? To minimize that confusion, we're introducing query limits to desktop. You can see those query limit settings in the Options menu under the Report Settings tab in the Current File section. And you can see the query limit simulations options right here. Using these settings, you can choose a capacity whose limits you want to simulate in desktop. So you can see a bunch of options here. By default, all new reports will use the Auto setting, which applies limits based on where your model is hosted or likely to be hosted, and otherwise it'll default to the most restrictive limit, which is shared capacity, to make sure that you never see a working visual when your published report is going to error. But for existing reports, you'll get no query limits by default because those were published those reports were built before this update, and we would like to preserve backwards compatibility there. But of course, even for existing reports, those options that you can see here, all of these options will still show up now, so you can always change them yourself by going into the Options menu and applying limits as you see fit. And that's what we're attempting to do in order to, help stop you from running into that confusing situation where visuals which are working locally just don't seem to work after being published. But just to be clear, these changes, the addition of these query limit simulations, only apply to desktop. After you publish your report, the same limits as have always existed will still apply. But hopefully these changes do help reduce confusion that we've seen while using desktop and publishing reports to the service.
Thanks, Rian. Next, we're excited to announce updates to the Power BI tabs in Microsoft Teams. These updates help you create tabs faster and allows you to use links to configure tabs and help you save default filters in your tabs. Łukasz will now demo this for us. Now on to modeling. We have a new DAX function this month, MATCHBY. When used with a window function, this function defines columns that are used to determine how to match data and identify the current row. Be sure to check out the blog for an example on how to use this new DAX function. Moving on to data connectivity. First up, we're happy to announce that we've just released the May 2023 update for the on-premise data gateway. This update brings the on-premise data gateway up to date with the May 2023 release of Power BI Desktop. This means that reports published to the service and refreshed via the gateway will go through the same query execution logic as in desktop. We have 4 more new connectors. The MongoDB Atlas connector allows you to access and analyze application data stored in MongoDB Atlas and perform analysis across multiple data sources. This doesn't disrupt in-production application workloads by leveraging the built-in federated query engine and workload isolation of Atlas. The Celonis EMS connector allows you to link Power BI with your Celonis EMS instance. This connector allows you to connect to a Celonis EMS team via the team URL from Power BI, list all published knowledge models and records defined in those knowledge models, and export data from a record defined in a knowledge model. The new CloudBlue PSA connector allows you to access data from its product suite to perform operations and financial analyses. Finally, the new SolarWinds Service Desk connector allows you to pull data on incidents in the SolarWinds Service Desk system, creating reports, analytics, and insights. Next, we have some connector updates. Starting with Anaplan, the update includes back-end changes for compatibility with ongoing Anaplan infrastructure updates. There's no change to user-facing connector features. The AssembleViews update adds the ability to select individual models as well as views for maximum flexibility when pulling data from your Assemble project. Autodesk Construction Cloud updates include an enhanced navigation experience to allow you to specifically select the tables from either the account extract or a specific project extraction. You can now pull extractions from multiple projects on the same account. Backwards compatibility with existing dashboards using the previous navigation method is now supported, and the beta flag has been removed. Azure Databricks and the Databricks connector updates include adding escape support in SQL capabilities, removing the beta label from the connector, and enabling SQL API SQL bind col by default. BitSight security rating connector updates include adding a column called Details that offers additional information about security vulnerabilities and findings and some bug fixes. BQE Core connector has an updated API endpoint to retrieve contact information. Eduframe reporting connector updates have added teachers as a resource, renamed blocks to personal program elements, and added a function to fetch Eduframe specific user authentications. And lastly, the funnel connector has updated labels and help text to be more in line with the funnel app. This includes renaming account to workspace and view to data share. On to releases in the service. Data loss prevention, or DLP, policies are now GA. With DLP, you can automatically detect sensitive information as it is uploaded to Power BI, helping you take more measures to properly classify sensitive information and create more processes on how to interact with sensitive information. Let's watch a demo on DLP.
Microsoft Purview data loss prevention policies for Power BI can now support auto detection of sensitive information types like Social Security number, credit card, or bank account numbers to help you identify and govern your sensitive data in Power BI. Using Microsoft Purview compliance, security administrators can define and apply their organization's data loss prevention, or DLP, policies to sensitive data in the Power BI service, giving organizations the ability to control and protect their sensitive enterprise data. Let's begin by creating a new data loss prevention policy. After naming our policy, we are ready to choose the locations we want to apply this policy to. Notice that Power BI is now available as a location to apply DLP labels to. We are now ready to create a customized advanced DLP rule to detect Social Security numbers. We name it and add our content condition to match based on a content scan of sensitive info types. Microsoft has over 200 predefined sensitive info types. For this demo, we select the 8 Social Security number variations. Next, we turn on user notifications, which will trigger if sensitive data is scanned. We also provide a custom policy tip to help educate end users on our organization's sensitive information policies. Setting the sensitivity label of the admin alerts and reports is our final step. Under Incident Reports, we select a level and ensure the alert is turned on. Verifying the admin role will receive the defined alert if triggered, and selecting how often these alerts will be sent, we are ready to save. And here is the rule we just created, listing the conditions and actions we selected. Now, let's demonstrate this rule in action. Here we have a data set that contains customer Social Security numbers. When we refresh the dataset, it triggers the evaluation of the DLP policy we created. And when a condition matches, it triggers the policy tip we defined with the DLP rule. Publishing of sensitive data will create a similar result. All users uploading data with Social Security numbers to Power BI will also trigger an alert for the security admin in Microsoft Purview compliance. The alert was also sent by email to the designated security admins. New data loss prevention policies provide security admins with an unprecedented set of capabilities to prevent data leaks from Power BI.
Next, we're excited to introduce data model editing in the Power BI service. This is an opt-in preview feature that's the first step towards modeling parity in the service. Let's turn it over to Emily for a demo.
I am a sales analyst editing this report to help my team better understand patterns behind my company's sales. I notice on the visual on the left that my average daily sales appear to be the exact same for every month. This doesn't feel right. I suspect I need to fix something in my model. Previously, to make a change to my model, I would have needed to download my report, launch desktop, save my changes, and then republish. This time-consuming process was even needed to make simple formatting changes. But now, with our new modeling on the web capabilities, I no longer need to even leave my browser to edit my data model. Directly within the browser, I can see and interact with the underlying model. Here, I notice I am missing a relationship between the order data and date tables. I now create a relationship between these two tables. I will now go back and refresh my report and see if this solved my issue. I now see different average daily sales across different months. These numbers are now what I expect to see in my visual. This took mere seconds for me to discover and fix this issue with this underlying model. Not only will these web modeling capabilities save so much time for model authors, but they are also especially game-changing for Mac users who can finally say goodbye to the hassle of running parallels or partitioning their hard drive just to make changes to their Power BI model. Now, I look at how I can improve the key metric sales and forecast section in my report. I feel that I am missing information on how many sales are canceled. Canceled sales are a key area of interest for my team, so I would like to make a measure to allow for easy analysis of this information. I go back to the Model Editing tab to create this measure. As I'm creating this measure, I see IntelliSense, which provides helpful suggestions as I'm defining my measure. Now that I've created this new canceled sales measure, I want to test how this looks in my report, so I go back to my Report tab and refresh my report. I now see this measure under my Order Data table in the Data pane. I'm now creating a card to help me track this canceled sales number. I can now easily see the results of my canceled sales measure. I'm now happy with how both my report and data model look. However, looking at this report, I realize that the sales data is confidential information that not everyone should have access to. To ensure security and confidentiality of our sales data, I would like to ensure that the sales data that is displayed to each sales representative is limited to only the region in which they operate. To do this, I will go back to my data model and edit the row-level security roles. Here, I select Manage Roles to create a new role for one of my sales regions. I would like to define this role-level security role to apply to representatives in our Pacific Northwest region, so I will name this new role Pacific Northwest. To define this role, I will select the Store Data table and create a new filter using the drop-down interface where the state equals Washington. This drop-down experience is helpful. However, I'm a big fan of DAX, so I switched to the DAX editor. While looking at the DAX, I remembered that we also have sales representatives in Oregon, so I add Oregon to this filter. I want to see how this looks in the default editor as well, so I toggle back and see that my filters are properly defined in the default editor as well. I am satisfied with the role I created, and now I would like to assign the role to the sales representatives in the Pacific Northwest region, so I go to the Assign tab to assign this role to the security group associated with sales representatives in the Pacific Northwest, and then select Save. I have now successfully created and assigned my new row-level security role. As you can see, I was able to accomplish so many of my model editing needs without ever having to leave the browser.
Thanks, Emily. Moving next to Paginated Reports. This month, we have 2 accessibility enhancements in Paginated Reports. The first is that we have included headings in the report text box properties in the Power BI Report Builder. You will be able to choose from multiple heading styles to expand your report text size options with styling. This allows low vision and blind individuals a chance to navigate the report property elements more efficiently, and screen readers to read aloud a focused text box to the user. Second, we've added column row headers to Tablix properties. You can now make the first row a header row when editing Tablix properties in the dialog box. We're also happy to announce that drill-through reports have now been added to Paginated Reports in the Power BI service. That means we now support on-premises drill-through capabilities in the service. Next, we've made changes to the Power BI Paginated Reports consumption of Power BI Premium capacity. Our goal with the adjustment was to move a measurement unit that was simpler to understand, closely related to user actions, and easier to manage report execution time. As a result, most customers are seeing a net reduction in resource consumption for the same paginated report workload. Next, onto the new features released for developers. You can now enhance your custom visuals with keyboard navigation. Your custom visuals are now easier to use for people with disabilities and will provide more options for interacting with reports. Pressing the Escape key will move the focus from inside the visual container, letting you easily exit the visual and move on to the next element of the report. Pressing the Enter key on the visual will let you get inside the visual and interact with it using your keyboard. Pressing the Tab key within the visual will navigate between the visual elements in a loop, providing a seamless and intuitive way for you to explore your custom visuals. Next, in Developers, you can now detect filtered report state with custom visuals. It's important for custom visuals to be able to detect whether a report has been filtered. Up to now, custom visuals were unable to determine the state. With the latest API release, custom visuals can now detect any filters applied to the report. Next up, we have some exciting new updates for you in the visualization section. The editor's pick of the quarter are Calendar Pro by OKViz, Selection Slicer by Walnut Innovation, 3DBI, Super Tables, Enlighten Aquarium, Gantt Chart by XViz, Deneb, Declarative Visualization in Power BI, and Drill Down Donut Pro. New visuals available for you on AppSource this month include Multiple Stacked Charts, Hierarchy Chart by MAQ Software, Track Plan Timeline Test Release, Dual Y-Axis Column Chart, Pro, Clustered Stacked Column Chart, also Pro, Vertical Bullet Chart, also Pro, Horizontal Bullet Chart, also Pro, and ACO Planning Enterprise. Updated visuals for this month are Zebra BI Cards 1.6, Create Stunning Pie Charts with Drill Down Pie Pro, Acterys Gantt, Strip Plot by Nova Silva, TMap 2.0, and Calendar by MAQ Software. And that's it for this month. Tell us in the comments, what was your favorite feature this month? Have you tried any of the new Fabric features yet? As always, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy these monthly updates. And please keep sending us your feedback. I personally love hearing the feedback. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.